3-year-old, Cren Wurst was last seen in the company of her mother. Doris Wurst Plantation, Florida, 1974. Doris was a dedicated caregiver, committed to raising her young toddler with love. On November 7, 1974, Doris and Cren were seen departing in a 1961 red Chevy Impala. This would be the last time anyone would ever see the mother and daughter ever again. The police were notified and the search ensued, but no leads were uncovered, and the trail would eventually grow cold. Sadly, for a missing person in Florida, it's more than just a stereotype that they'll be found in the water. It's a grim reality that frequently proves true. This saying is especially accurate in a state where vast networks of rivers, swamps, and coastal lines blur the boundaries between land and sea, creating an environment where disappearances too often lead investigators straight to the water's edge. With limited funding and overwhelmed agencies, the search for answers often stalls long before the truth can be uncovered. After the case grew cold, Cren's missing persons photo was circulated to nearby regions in the form of an age-progressed image, this one to make her look 50 years old. But thanks to the efforts of Sunshine Sonar, a group which conducts volunteer searches for missing person cases, it would later be uncovered that Cren never made it past age 3. Sunshine State Sonar began looking for the missing mother and child in South Florida in June of 2023. The team eventually located the 1960 Chevrolet Impala in a local canal along with skeletal remains consistent with an adult and small child. To raise awareness for their robust volunteer effort, Sunshine State Sonar posted a video of the search mission as well as footage of the car being recovered from the water. DNA testing later confirmed the identities of mother and child, and police said next of kin have been contacted. Shockingly, and to the surprise of all involved, at 9 a.m. on August 10, 2024, in a murky body of water near Wimbledon Lake Jive, while Sunshine State Sonar was focused on conducting their search operation for the missing mother and daughter, their sonar detected a second submerged vehicle. This one sitting 22 feet down in the shadowy depths of the water. Their sonar detected a second submerged vehicle. This one sitting 22 feet down in the shadowy depths of the water. In an unexpected twist, this would begin the recovery efforts for the second vehicle that day, thus solving 2 separate missing persons cases in just 24 hours. With Plantation Police Department on scene, divers entered the water, retrieving a license plate number that linked this vehicle to a 20-year-old missing persons case, a case that had been entirely off the radar of the Broward Sheriff's Office, whose dive team soon arrived on scene, confirming the presence of human remains inside the sunken vehicle. The car was found upside down, deeply embedded in silt with its windows rolled down, turning each movement that the dive team made into a painstaking recovery effort. The body was eventually discovered to be that of World War II veteran Bernie Novak. Bernie, a husband and father of 3, who had been reported missing after failing to return home in Lauderdale West community, was finally recovered. After more than 2 decades underwater, he, along with his silver Buick LeSabre, disappeared in 2004. Bernie was remembered for his war stories, and he enjoyed bowling and ping pong in his retirement years. More than 20 years had passed between Bernie's disappearance and the recovery of his body. And with no leads as to his whereabouts, his family had been in a constant state of confusion and shock. Reflecting on the search efforts for his father, who seemed to have fallen off the face of the earth, his son Joey recalls 20 years ago at this time, "We were down in Florida looking for the car. We had a memorial service about 5 years later, and I really put everything behind us with closure. But I always imagined this is how it happened." Now Joey said he can finally lay his father to rest in peace. "I'm very proud of him," Joey said, "and I learned a lot from him. He lives in my brain and my heart every day." Joey says that he planned to place Bernie's remains next to that of his mother's at the family cemetery. On February 19, 1976, Everett Hawley, 72, said goodbye to his wife, Atha, unaware that this ordinary farewell would mark the start of a day that would spiral into the unexpected. That morning, Everett was picked up from his home in Stockton, Illinois by his business partner, Clarence Owens. Clients had arrived in style and his newly painted, bright gold 1966 Chevy Impala. His wife recalls that both men wore business suits, and she remembers that she reminded her husband to bring just a light overcoat due to the unusually warm February day. Everett and Clarence spent their days buying and selling real estate, often driving through northern Illinois, looking for farms to buy that day. The two attended a political rally for a gubernatorial candidate, James Thompson, at the American Legion Hall in Pentaconica. After the rally, they visited a local hangout called Rocky's Cafe for pie and coffee before heading to Clarence's son's house to show off his car's new paint job. Clarence's son wasn't home, but they briefly spoke to his daughter-in-law and mentioned their plans to attend nearby auction on their way to an appraisal appointment. The auctioneer at the Borgman farm later recalled seeing Everett walk up the driveway while Clarence waited in the car. This was the last confirmed sighting of the men. The next day, their families reported them missing. When the two failed to return home, authorities initially thought they might have been in a car accident. However, as days passed, with no sign of them in nor Clarence's car, police theories shifted to possible foul play, with some believing that the men had disappeared voluntarily. A massive search effort was launched, involving local police, civil defense units, and 5 airplanes, scanning the roads between the areas. The men were last seen, but to no avail. Both men were described as hardworking and family-oriented, with no known enemies or motives for the disappearance. Everett was devoted to his wife Atha, and Clarence was very close to his 3 sons, one of whom was a respected local police officer. Authorities found no clues and were left with no leads to follow. Therefore, the case grew cold. Everett's wife, Atha Hawley, passed away shortly after the first anniversary of his disappearance. Her death was said by some to be from a broken heart, a tragic end that reflected the despair and confusion she carried. For many, Atha's passing marked a final chapter, deepening the belief that Everett would never be found alive. In 2005, a theory emerged, linking the case to the 1976 kidnapping of Fred Lickle, a cashier clerk who was taken hostage after a farm auction in Wisconsin by one William X. Line. Though X. Line denied involvement in the men's disappearance, similarities between the case were noted by law enforcement, but no arrests were ever made. Until 2024, there was no chase of Clarence or Clarence's prized gold car. Families and even retired investigators of the case tell the media they were haunted by the mystery of what had happened. Did the 2 men on that sunny February day? Finally, in March of 2000, 24 civilians enjoying a day of fishing along the Pentaconica River discovered a submerged vehicle using their sonar fish finder, a digital way to map underwater environments. Authorities were quickly informed. The town sheriff noted the difficulty of the ensuing search. The vehicle lay partially embedded in a mud at a depth of 8 to 10 feet, a shallow resting place by some measures, treacherous enough to complicate the recovery efforts. Authorities were able to use a crane, and there they pulled out, in 1966 Chevrolet Impala sedan. More than 100 bones were retrieved from inside the vehicle and the surrounding riverbed. DNA later extracted from the bones was compared with DNA profiles from the men's relatives in order to identify them. Testing performed confirmed the bodies found were the remains of the 2 businessmen and longtime friends. Before the DNA testing, in an effort to rule out a previously unknown homicide, the remains were examined by a forensic anthropologist in St. Louis, Missouri, who found no evidence of trauma. When a Bagel County coroner said that how the 2 men died is still unknown, but that no foul play is suspected. The sheriff of the town reminded the public, quote, This is a testament to the dedication and perseverance of our detectives and forensic experts. It's a reminder that no case is truly ever closed, no matter how much time has passed. It should also be noted that this would not have been possible without the proactive actions of the civilians